All right, your leaders need to know your vision, mission, and values, and your new hires need to become indoctrinated in them. This starts with the interview process. If loving people or building quality homes or selling widgets is part of your mission, you want to look for evidence of this on their resume, and you should be asking for this information on the job application. So again, it ties into your vision, mission, and values. What is it that you want, the skills that you want to see? You should be looking for that in the resume. It should also be part of your job application. So if you look at the front of your packet, you'll see an example of our job application. And this is all free stuff for you guys to be able to adopt the areas that you like about it, ignore the areas that you don't like about it. One of the things that you're going to notice is the absence of a social security number. So for years, we had the social security number on there, but we recognize that we don't actually use the social security number until we hire them. And so the general practice today is if you're not using that information before you're hiring an employee, you don't need to be asking for that information before you're hiring for an employee. So we have recently removed that. You want information you need to contact them or other people about them. You also want to provide talking points in the interview, such as hobbies, past work history, and work skills that they possess. So sometimes people say, like, why do you ask about their hobbies? Well, it's a good way to start an interview and just say, hey, I see you love baseball. What's your favorite team? And you kind of bring them in so that they're not so nervous, because they're already so nervous when they first walk into the room. So you want to have something that you can just kind of connect with them, talk to them, let them know that this is going to be a safe place for you to come and open up and talk to me. I just really want to get to know you. I don't want to drill you. All right. There's also an understand and agreement section at the bottom here, so that if we find out any falsified information, we have the legal right to take precedence and do that firing if we need to. So here's the next question. Why do I need to have a job application if I already have a resume? So if I have a resume, why do I still want to have a job application filled out? Okay, consistent information, making sure that it is consistent information. That's a very good reason. So here are three good reasons. First one is the job application has additional information and has your understanding and agreement section. So now they're signing on there and they understand, they agree if they falsify any information they give to you, that you can terminate them for that. The second reason is, and this is, one of my own pet peeves, do not allow them to state "see resume" on the listing of the last employer's part, because they get that. They give you a resume and they say "see resume." Well, there's extra information. You want to see the quality of their work and you want to see if there's any gaps. So part of what I'm looking for is quality, right, for an employee. So I want to see, does the information that you put on your application match up with the information that you have on the resume? And the dates are the same, the people are the same, the jobs are the same, and I see if there's any gaps or any differences, because if there are, that's going to be one of the first questions we have. If there are too many of them, you're not even going to get an interview. So I want to be able to compare an application to a resume and see that somebody is able to give me good quality of work. Perhaps the number one reason is many applicants have helpers for their resume, but they complete the application themselves, and I want to see their actual work. I know this to be true because I have written the resumes for my 6 adult children and in-laws who have all got hired and are gainfully employed. They have a great resume, and that's going to be the facts for many of the people. The resumes that you're going to see is not their own work. They've had somebody else help them with that resume. I want to see their own work on a job application and see how it measures up to the resume. Yes. Great question. So what they have to do to be able to qualify for an interview is they have to fill out a job application and a resume. Both have to come together. And so then I'll collect maybe 50, 100 of those and then decide who I want to give a face-to-face interview. So you don't even have a chance of getting an interview with us unless we have an application and a resume both submitted. We have it all set up through online. So they can go online and write to our website, and it's a very easy process for them to go ahead and select it and attach the resume. So we make it very easy for them to do, or they can come down and fill it out in person. Good question. If you have a job description created for each position, and you should, the person interviewing needs to ensure it is accurate and up to date so they understand the work experience and work qualities that they are looking for. So there is a sample job description here that we did for customer care representative. And it doesn't have to be this detailed, but you want to at least have the essential duties and responsibilities section filled out so you know exactly what it is that they're going to be doing. So again, you know what you're interviewing for. So if they have nothing to do with their job, with their communication skills, and they're just in production building, then you're not going to put a huge emphasis on their communication skills in the interview process. If they're going to be talking on the phones with customer care, you want to make sure that they're able to speak well. RDC announces openings to current employees and lists openings with Craig Henry of the Texas Workforce Solutions in our local Round Rock office and with Indeed.com. RDC gives a $150 referral to any hourly employee who refers a new hire who successfully completes their 60-day training period. And I'll tell you that we have about a third of our workforce are from referrals. And they're some of our best employees. And I spend way more than $150 to try to find a good candidate. So that's a win-win in my opinion. I also want to give a strong shout out to Craig Henry with the Texas Workforce Solutions. RDC considers him a true partner in our hiring strategy, and I encourage you to meet with him in person to discover all the opportunities they provide to help you hire quality employees, most of them for free. RDC has hired many of our employees through our local TWC. When we're not able to find enough candidates through there, the other outside source that we use is Indeed.com. So we used to use Monster for a while. Monster kind of deteriorated. Indeed.com is the best that I've been able to find right now. One of the things I like about Indeed.com is you can set how much money that you want to spend on a daily basis and for how long, so you can kind of control how many applications that you're getting or resumes that you're getting through them. So interviewing for competence, I need to know which job qualifications are important for the position that I am hiring. For example, how important is punctuality or working a set schedule? How important is work quality? How important is work speed? How important are written communication skills or verbal communication skills? How important is flexibility in a work schedule or availability to work overtime? How important is honesty? How important is past work experience? For example, RDC requires 3 years of work experience for somebody that we're going to consider for our customer care department. We're fortunate we don't have a lot of turnover, and we're able to take the best. And so we want somebody that's already been doing it for at least 3 years. That's a minimum requirement. However, in our production and receiving departments, we will hire anyone right off the street if they have a high school degree. And so we don't require that. Part of the job description, going through and recognizing what are those true bona fide work attributes and qualities that you need for them to be able to do their job. And then you're able to look for that within the hiring. The more specific you are in listing your job and job description, the better quality of applications you'll receive. Your goal in your first interview becomes one of verifying the success and authenticity of the qualifications. With regard to interviewing for character, I need to know which company values are important for the position I am hiring for. For example, how important is honesty? How important is teamwork? How important is quality? These are part of our corporate values. These are all important things that I want to see. I need to make sure that I have legal open-ended questions that show me they are a good cultural fit. Questions like, and here are questions that I use. What are your 3 biggest strengths? What are your goals for the next 3 to 5 years? What is one word you would use to describe yourself and why? What do you know about our company's culture and why do you believe you would add value and be a good fit? Why are you interested in this particular position at our company? So open-ended questions, it's going to give me an idea. And then when I get an answer, that's something that's a track that we can go on and continue to talk about. Especially when I ask for that one word and they hem and they haw and they try to come up with that one perfect word. And it's like, why did you choose that word? Give me an example of how you showed that word. Have you had any feedback from others telling you that you're a joyful person? My experience has been that over 80% of my reason for firing an employee or for them not successfully completing their 60-day training period is linked to their cultural fit more so than their competence to do the job. This is why a good portion of each interview process needs to address the cultural fit. Most of the people that I'm looking at, because we've targeted, this is what we're looking for. We know what we're looking for. We've seen it on the resume. We've seen it on the job application. We have a good sense that they're going to be able to perform the job. It's the cultural fit. It's their behavior. It's, are they committed to working here? Part of the reason why I ask for the next 3 to 5 years is I want to see what are their plans for the next 3 to 5 years. If they say, well, I plan on working for a year and then I'm going to move to Oklahoma and start wrangling horses. Well, that's probably not somebody that I want to hire. That's great, and I'll encourage them in becoming a horse wrangler, but that's not somebody that I want to hire for just 1 year here. Or if this is a position that's entry level and I know that I already have 5 or 6 people that are just waiting for the day that one of our supervisors is going to lead, and it's big on them that in the next 3 to 5 years I want to be a manager at your company, we only have about 50 employees. So we have that very honest, transparent conversation where I say, we have a lot of horizontal growth. We don't have a lot of ladders where there's a lot of vertical growth. And if you want to grow horizontally and be, challenged for 3 to 5 years, that would be wonderful. And if a position does open up, you will certainly be considered, but I can't promise you that we're going to have a position for a lot of vertical growth, and have that dialogue and see how important is that vertical growth for them. Because again, in the interview process, I want to see if it's a good fit for RDC. And I want to be honest with them because I want to make sure it's a good fit for them also. This is a win-win. I don't want to try to convince somebody to come to work for us. I want somebody who wants to work for us, and I want them to work for us, and we can have this mutual obligation. It should be obvious to all hiring managers that the company culture should never discriminate against the hiring of any qualified applicant for race, age, gender, national origin, disability, or any other Title IX protected class. If it does, you have a much bigger problem. This includes only hiring women for customer service jobs, or only hiring men for tech support jobs, or only hiring younger or older employees. The best workplace is diverse and representative of the community that they work in and the customers they serve. Any questions about the importance of competence and character? Okay, so now we get to move to second base. It says hire right competence. Second base is hiring the right candidate at the right time with confidence. This is why we do all the hard work of knowing what we need, accurately listing what we are looking for, making sure applicants send us both a resume and an application to show they are truly interested and can follow directions, and taking time to review and select the best applicants for personal interviews. As a side note, any applicant who takes the time to send a cover letter or letters of recommendation, those are all very good things. That's somebody who is forward thinking, somebody who's taking the time to show me that they've already have proof that they have been a good employee somewhere else, and that they can take the time to introduce themselves and tell me that they really want to work here. So we don't require them, but those who send them get an extra plus there. I use a very simple ABC process. An application and resume that is incomplete or full of gaps or full of short-time work experience or does not meet the hiring criteria for competency gets a C and is not awarded an interview. So that's the first thing I'm looking for. Do they have what we're looking for? And if not, just put a C on it, stick it to the side. An application and resume that meets the minimum hiring standards and demonstrates a solid work and/or educational history gets a B+ to a B-. An application and resume that demonstrates both a solid work and educational history that exceeds our requirements receives an A or an A-. So if you meet the requirements and you're what I expect, you're going to get a B. If you exceed those, you're going to get an A. If you don't meet them, you're going to get a C. So I have my piles of A's, B's, and C's. And I've taught Amber how to do this. And so we've been doing it together for the last couple of hires. My hope is to schedule at least 10 interviews per position for my first round of interviews. This usually means all A's and B+. And then if I have room, some of the B's will get in. So again, I'm looking when I'm looking to make a hiring decision, so somebody, for example, just left in our customer care department. And so Amber and I needed to interview for somebody in customer care. And what the first thing that we looked at is we do not want to hire somebody who is any less in experience and ability than in Sarah, who had just left. We want to make sure that we're getting somebody who's just as competent, just as capable, has the same character as Sarah, or better, because we don't want our customer care department to take a dip down. We want to continually be improving the department. So that was our base standard. And so the first thing we did is we went around and we looked and we let people know within the company, are there any, we have an opening here in customer care. Is there anybody inside the company that wants to apply? Well, one of the things I like to do is my candidates who finish second, third, fourth place in my customer care administrative jobs, if I see that they have the proclivity to be able to maybe be and do a good job in our production department, I hire them in as a production tech. So I've got somebody who's overqualified in production and give them the opportunity to start learning what it is to be in production, knowing that if I ever have somebody that leaves from customer care, I have somebody that I can move up and they already know the company culture. I've already been able to see them for a year or two and I know what their heart is like. And sure enough, we had an applicant that wanted to come from production that finished second a couple years ago in customer care, and we were able to hire her in as that customer care. So it's building those building blocks in there and taking a look and saying, who can I come in here? I'm also going to tell you that it's not always the right decision to say that somebody has to be there long term. For some people, it's going to be a career. For other people, it's going to be a stop on that career. And I want to bring in talent that's going to match our culture. So one of the things that we have done at Radiation Detection Company is I have taken some young men, two young men in particular, Michael and what's the other guy, Amber in customer care? Nathan, Michael and Nathan. And these guys had just graduated with their degrees from college and they don't have the experience. So they've been trying. Michael wanted to become a police officer and he tried in the academies, but he had no work experience and he wasn't getting successful at that. Nathan had just graduated from Texas A&M and he had gone for interviews for several months and wasn't able to find anything. I told both of these guys, you give me 3 years. So for Michael, it was in production. For Nathan, it was in customer care. You give me 3 years of solid work. We're going to develop you as an employee, and you will be able to go out there and get the job that you want after 3 years. A 3-year hire for somebody who's got their college degree, building badges for us, or on the phones for us with customers, that's a win. And so both of these guys did exactly what we asked for. Michael today is a police officer in Austin, got the job right after worked the 3 years. He became a leader in our production department and then moved on and got the job in Austin as a police officer. And Nathan today is working as a behavioral specialist at a hospital and he's leading a team there. And so both of these guys were able to get there. So if we can develop an employee and bring them in and help them learn some skills for 3 years, that's a win in my book. It's very important to note that an A application and resume simply means they look good on paper. They are not guaranteed to be a good communicator or cultural fit, and the careful vetting process of their work history may prove they exaggerated their actual work knowledge and experience. Conversely, a B applicant may have some valid explanations for any employment gaps or red flags you noted in the review process. I will tell you that I've hired just as many B candidates as I have A candidates. That initial A simply means they look good on paper. Some of those Bs are just struggling. Maybe they wrote their own resume and didn't have somebody help them write that resume. So going into the interview process, don't assume that the A resume is going to be a better fit for you than the B. You have to be open to that. After the first round of interviews are completed by the HR manager, whose primary job again is to verify and clarify the information given, allowing them to qualify the applicant for a second interview, we then use you'll see the next attached form called the interview evaluation form. So this is the form that I've been using for probably about last 10 years. You can make up your own form. You can buy this form. The key for a form is that we are able to show that every applicant was asked the same questions and is being rated on the same system. So that if anyone ever comes and wants to charge any kind of discrimination in the hiring process, we can show exactly that everyone was rated at the same time. So everyone goes through the same questions, everyone goes through everything the same in the interview process. And this then allows us to be able to compare, because when you're interviewing 10 applicants in one day, it's easy to get mixed up and think, now which one said this or which one said that? So all my notes are kept right here. And then I'm able to compare everybody on the same scale and the same standard and see who are those that I want to bring back. Well, here's a good point for the next question. Why do I do a second interview? Why not just do one interview and then make a hiring decision? Why would it be advantageous to have a second interview? Okay. Yeah. Consistency, personality, moods, good. So I have 6 good reasons. Number 1 is it allows my supervisors and managers the opportunity to have significant input in the final selection process without unnecessarily taking up a significant amount of time in the qualifying process. So when I'm interviewing 10 applicants in a day, I'm spending 5 to 6 hours doing that. I don't need to pull my supervisor and the hiring manager and the production tech and have them sit in on those first interviews when all I'm really doing is qualifying the individual and checking, does your resume make sense? Does it match up? Are you somebody that I think is a good cultural fit? So in that first round of the interview, I am simply qualifying applicants and saying, here's somebody I think could be a good fit for RDC. So the idea then is I want to have like 3 applicants after that first process. So my perfect goal is I have about 50 resumes. I pick the top 10 and do interviews, and then I pick the top 3 from there, and I'm able to present those 3 now to the hiring manager and the supervisor, and I want to draw them in and have them play a significant role in the hiring process. I've discovered that I receive the best training and evaluation effort from my supervisors and managers when they have skin in the game for the selection of a new hire. They can't just tell me, well, you hired that person. Early on in my career, I used to just hire everybody. And it was, here's who you're going to have. And I would run into that. And if they didn't work out, it was simply, well, you hired them. I never wanted them in the first place. So now they can't do that. I've discovered my supervisors and managers see things that I do not see, and they improve the selection process. I'm a big fan of collaborative hiring. For example, from 2017 to 2019, 27 out of 28 of our new hires successfully completed their 60-day training. So the process works. We take a lot of time to vet, make sure we get the right person in the door, and 27 of our last 28 candidates passed their 60-day training.
Are you still doing the same, like right now with the hire? Do you still have 50 resumes with that? Is that what you guys still are?
With COVID, it has definitely come down. Yeah.
I just know like within the last 2 months that there's not a pool.
Right.
So
That is true today. I'll give you my own personal opinion. My personal opinion is that we have incentivized some people to be able to collect unemployment, and they're going to make more money sitting at home than they are coming to work for me for $13 an hour. And so we're seeing that definitely in the last year and a half, it's come down. That's why I gave you our 2017 to 2019 numbers, not 2020. 2020 was a lot harder. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping we're going to be returning to those days soon. I do a second interview because I want to see an employee show up to work on time and ready to perform on 2 separate days. Show me that you can be here 2 times in a row on time, motivated and ready to go. I use the second interview to ask deeper questions about their competency and character and to facilitate my hiring supervisors and managers' opportunity to get to know them. I have my hiring manager take the lead on the second interview, and I sit in to provide any needed clarification or context and to ask any additional questions I may have, as well as to ensure all questions are legal and all answers provided are accurate. So as the HR manager, I'm still responsible for what everyone is asked. So I'm going to make sure I'm sitting in that room when any questions are being asked. But I do want to encourage my hiring managers and supervisors to be asking the questions. And then we'll have a coaching time if there's anything that's inappropriate that they're asking so that they don't do it the next time. All right. Look at this. I'm just going to share. I'm so proud of myself. I wrote I should be at 9:45 at this point. It's 9:40. I'm so happy. And that clapping is probably because I'm at least halfway over. So just hang in there with me. All right. Reference checks. Our application provides a spot for 2 personal references and 2 work references. The personal reference is primarily for me to see if I know any of them. If not, I rarely call these, as most people can list 2 people to say something nice about them. I really focus upon the work references. Either the HR manager or the hiring manager can make these reference calls. If the company they work for is anything like our company, all you will receive is the position held, dates of employment, and verification of hourly wage. That's all that we share. And that's all that most of the people they're calling are going to share, because they don't want to say something and then have them turn out to be a lousy employee for you, and then you're suing them because they hired them based upon your recommendation. So here's the trick. You have a better chance of getting more information if you call the reference rather than calling the HR department. That won't work at RDC. They all know to turn it over to the HR department, but not every company is that way. So sometimes you can get their supervisor directly. If you find someone who will talk to you, common questions to ask are attendance and punctuality, communication skills, teamwork, and any violent or behavioral issues in the workplace. The primary function of the reference check is to prove you made the effort to verify what you were told on the application and during the interview, and to make sure you are aware of any red flags from past employers. Keep this written documented evidence in the personnel folder along with the application and resume. So you need to show that you've made your best effort to find out any history on them. When making the official job offer, be sure to communicate the starting wage and any agreed upon increases, when medical benefits start, the scheduled hours to be worked, and the date of hire. Also include any agreed upon days off and onboarding information they may need to bring with them. For example, if they need to bring information to show that they are a citizen or that they are able right to work here. Any kind of information that you require for them to bring, make sure they know that so they don't come the first day and going, I didn't know I need to bring that. It is best to follow up this phone call with an email verifying this information, which offers you documentation of what they were told. So a lot of times they're super excited, you just hired them and you're telling them all this information on the phone and then they completely forget it. So follow up with an email also saying, we're so excited to have you here. Here's the time we're expecting you to come and here's what we need you to bring. We do not have time to discuss the complete onboarding process today. However, I would like to leave you with a few suggestions. The onboarding process should be proceduralized and followed for every new hire. So you should know, your supervisor should be trained. What is that onboarding process? How do we receive a new hire and set them up so they can be successful? At a very minimum, new hires should learn about the company's mission, vision, and values, when and where to take breaks, location of the bathroom, that's important, how to notify their supervisor if they will be missing any time, what the training period schedule looks like, and be given time to review the company handbook, which they need to sign a receipt of on day 1 of employment. So it's very important. If you don't have an employee handbook, you need an employee handbook. That's your protection. And your biggest protection is making sure it's in the hand of that new hire on day 1 and that they sign that they have received a copy. RDC uses videos to communicate much of this information and to help them learn more about our company. So we've produced a couple of videos. We used to have a person go in there and spend time doing that, and that works also. We were fortunate enough to be able to put together a quick video so that person doesn't have to spend 30 minutes doing the same thing every time we hire somebody. So they're able to watch the video, complete the information, and then they get taken to their department and introduced to everybody. That's, again, very important. Take the time to take them around and introduce them, not only within their own department, but the other departments. So for example, when we hire somebody into production, we take them in and we make sure that on day 1, they have a workstation and they have everything they need there. I mean, think about it. There's nothing worse than being hired and the supervisor or the manager is like, oh, we didn't know you were coming in today. Hey, can we find a computer and a phone for this person? And let me try to find you a pen. And they're showing up to work and they're like, wow, they're really excited to have me on day one. So show them that you really are excited to have them on day one, have everything ready. And then we take them after they've learned production and we take them around the entire building. We say, here are the customer care employees, and this is what they do. They're taking the orders that you're going to be building. And then we take them in sales. Here are the salespeople. These salespeople are trying to find new customers for us so that we can build more badges. And they take them around and show them into each department and introduce them to the supervisor within that department so they have a general sense and idea of how the production flows. And then please make sure your supervisors, employees, again, are expecting and are prepared for your new hire. Any questions regarding the hiring process? Okay, now we're ready for third base. You'll notice I have some torn sheets here. This is where my art really was hurting, trying to get third and first to match up. I eventually got there. All right, third base is establishing an effective progressive discipline and reward culture. The specifics should be documented in the employee handbook. Third base revolves around having an effective performance communication process. It begins with your handbook, where we document our 60-day introductory period, our employee conduct and work rules, our performance evaluation process, our progressive discipline process, and our employment termination process. At RDC, we use a 60-day introductory process, and you'll see that in your next handout that we call the RDC 2-month training sheet. Now, under job factors, we feel it's important that the job factors are going to align well with what the performance reviews are going to be. So once they have passed their 60-day training, they're going to become eligible for the next written performance review we have. So we want some of those same job factors to match up for those performance reviews. The P just simply means pass, B is borderline, F is fail. And then we have a section for comments for specifics in there. And especially if there's any borderline or fail, there needs to be comments in that section because, again, we want them to understand how they're doing. And so they will receive this at 30 days and then again at 60 days. And in order to pass your 60-day training, you need to have Ps across the board by that second month. A trainer is assigned to sit beside the new hire, and they are formally evaluated at the 30 and 60 days. Informally, they are given training and instruction and feedback on a daily basis. So we do not talk to our new hires only 2 times during those first 60 days. We assign a trainer that sits right next to them, not across the room, because again, the average person doesn't want to feel stupid getting up and asking the same question over and over. So we make sure that whoever's training them is sitting right next to them and is available to them at any time so that they can ask whatever question that they want. We want them to be successful. We want to see them have that best opportunity to be able to pass their 60-day training. The expectation is to see that a new hire's best effort and conduct during these first 60 days, so any red flags are addressed and considered. If you think about it, we should see their best behavior, their best effort in those first 60 days. If they are borderline in their quality of work, if they're borderline in their effort, if they're borderline in their attitude, if they're borderline in how they're getting along with people, that's not somebody we want. We should be seeing their absolute best during those first 60 days. And that's what our expectation is. So why does RDC have so many performance measurements? Well, let me tell you for a minute. Once an employee passes the introductory period, they join our standard performance review process. At RDC, we choose to measure performance every quarter with 2 formal one-on-one meetings and 2 formal written performance reviews. Personal goals are agreed upon during the written review process, and performance toward achieving these goals is evaluated during each one-on-one meeting. Supervisors and managers receive 1 formal one-on-one and 1 formal written performance review each year. So one of the things that was said that you wanted to hear today is, how do you retain people? How do you keep people? How do you develop people? We do it through frequent communication. So if you're a new hire or you're any employee at RDC, January, February, March, the end of March, you're going to have a verbal sit down with you and your supervisor, and we're going to look at your past performance review, and we're going to see it's been 3 months. How are you doing towards those goals that we set? We're going to encourage you in all the possible areas that we can encourage and say, hey, you're being a great team player. You're being great at this. And we're going to counsel you in those areas that we could expect a little bit better performance, and just say, hey, I know the effort's there, but we need to see a little bit more in this area. What can we do to help you in this area? Well, if I could have some Excel, I keep getting caught up in Excel. Well, what if we send you to an Excel class? Would that help you if we could send you an Excel class? So this is give and take, going back and forth. We want to help them be successful. What tools can we give you? What can we do to help you be successful in this? So then we've gone January, February, March. Now we have April, May, and June. So the end of June now, you're going to have a written performance review. And that written performance review is really something that we've crafted over time, because it's a dangerous thing when you start doing written performance reviews. If you're going to do them, you better do them very well, and you better be consistent in them, because it can lead to all kinds of problems if you don't do them well. It's part of our process. We do them very well. First thing they do is they are filling out the same exact review that the supervisor is on themselves. So they're completing that review, and then the supervisor does one. It comes to me in HR and to the hiring manager, and we're able to see, and it's actually color coded, because they can score themselves anywhere from a 5 to a 1. And if they're 2 off, it's going to come red. So if our employee says, well, I think I'm a 5 in my work quality, and the supervisor says, no, you're a 3 in your work quality, it's going to give us a red line in there and show us, okay, here's where we're at. We want to make sure we're going to focus upon in the review process. I'll tell you, most of the time it's the opposite way. Most of the time we have employees that are giving themselves 3, and our supervisors saying, no, you're really a 5. And that gives us a wonderful opportunity to really encourage them and just say, hey, what you need is confidence. You're awesome. And we want you to know that you're awesome. And I would say probably 75% of the time, it's the employees grading themselves lower than the supervisors are at our company. And we want to take advantage of that. So once that's then scheduled in there, the supervisor, before the review is ever given, now goes in and says, okay, here's the points that we agree upon, and here are the points where we have some gaps, and we want to make sure that we address these. And they're able to sit down, and every single review goes through, not only it's done by the supervisor, because they're the ones who are the closest to the employee. So we want to make sure that we're getting their review. It goes through the manager of that department. It goes to the area manager or our vice president, Ron Smith, and it also goes to HR. So we've got 5 eyes that are looking through that, making sure that everything is consistent, it makes sense. Amber's job, my job in that in HR is just making sure that it passes the sniff test, right? And looking in there just saying, okay, here's our understanding of, you have your 6 employees, that makes about sense based on the scores you're giving, that these are your most valuable employees. Or, hey, wait a minute, you just gave somebody a 5 in attendance and they have a verbal warning for their attendance during the 6-month period. So then we'll sit down with the supervisor and say, this doesn't match up. We need to correct that. So we're making sure that we're getting accurate information. So Amber and I are looking at everything. We want to make sure that any statements that are made are positive in nature and are constructive, not destructive. They're not going to be causing people to flare up and get upset, and that Amber and I can make sure that it also has good grammar, that it presents well. And so we're checking all that in. So we take a lot of time to make sure that everything is correct before we have those written performance reviews. We also do employee surveys, and we want to make sure, are these reviews valuable? And I'll let you know that we did a survey and said, do you guys want to go to 1 review a year like a lot of people do? And they said, no, we appreciate the 2 reviews a year because you're giving us feedback. I mean, think about it. 12 months is a long time to set up a goal and say, for the next 12 months of your life, here are your 3 goals. We want to make sure that we're breaking it down into 6-month increments. And at that 3-month place, we're sitting down, we're having a conversation about how are you doing towards achieving those goals. And if you've already hit those, let's come up with a couple more goals that we can come for the next 3 months. So the review process is very important, and that's part of our development. And that helps us to be able to keep online in HR. How are we developing our employees? Are their scores going up? I mean, you would expect a new hire, they're going to start at a certain baseline because they don't know a whole lot. But as they get cross-trained, as they learn job knowledge, as they learn skills, we want to see growth that's going on there. We can see a growth plan. If we see an employee that drops 8 points all of a sudden, that's an indication to Amber and I that we need to sit down and talk with that employee. Say, hey, how are things going for you right now? And there may be a real rough time that they're going through. We have an open door process, and 90% of the time they're coming to us and telling us before we see any drop. But there are times that the employee just is embarrassed or just doesn't want to share something there. And we're able to bring them in and just say, how can we help you? How can we support you during this time? Because time is tough, especially with COVID. It's been a hard time for employees, and we want to make sure that we're listening to them and that we're gentle with them. I mean, we believe at RDC that God has given us these employees to develop and to nurture and to help and to love. And that's what we want to do at RDC. We want to love our employees. I tell you what, there's nothing greater in human resources than the ability to hire somebody and to develop them and just love them. Yeah.
Your format for that, as far as comparing, we've got 10 people that are all doing the same role.
Right.
How do you make sure that you're pushing across the board in terms of the rate? So to say, like, Joey and Sue are doing the same job, I want to make sure I'm consistent in Joey's quality of work is compared with.
They would be rated by the same supervisor, Joey and Susie. And yes, we have different, that's a great point. We have different performance reviews for our administrative staff. So our customer care is a completely different review, same kind of point format, but just different questions, different skill level that we're looking for versus our production employees. And then we have our leaders, when also our supervisors, we expect more from our supervisors. So we have a completely different review for the leaders. I would encourage you, if you're interested in knowing more about our review process, schedule a time with Amber and she can show you what that looks like and how we go through that. It's something that has taken us years to develop, and we struggled for many years just trying to figure out how do we do this so that this becomes a good communication tool. Because again, if it's not a positive communication tool that's leading to development, then don't do one, because you can bring yourself a lot of damage if you don't do it well. Yes. Every April and every October are when our performance reviews are. And then we use the scores during April. We consider increases every single April, and that's linked to your April review. And then end of year bonus is linked to your October review. All right, so why does RDC have so many performance measurements? And here's 6 reasons. Number 1, it allows us to ensure real, open, and authentic discussions are happening. That's what we want. That's the review process. It is not a grade. It's not to sit down and say, you're an A student or you're a B student. We simply want real, open, and authentic discussion happening. Here are the areas and the behaviors you're showing that are awesome, and we want these to continue. Here are the areas that we'd like to see some improvement in. Let's have some real open dialogue about this. Number 2, it allows us to quickly correct any unwanted behavior and to quickly reward outstanding performance. It's again why we do it on a 3-month basis that we're sitting down and talking. We don't want somebody that's being a problem in the workplace with their teammates and wait 12 months before we talk to them. At least every 3 months, you're going to have a sit-down meeting. And obviously, if it gets out of hand, you do it before those 3 months. Number 3, it allows us to set and accomplish goals at 6 months rather than 1 year. 6-month increments are easier to measure and hold accountable to. 4th reason, it ensures each employee has the opportunity to discuss any concerns in private with their supervisor. So we recognize the review process is 2-way. It's not 1-way. Gives them the opportunity to say, hey, I wish I was being challenged more in this job. I wish that I could be cross-trained. And by the way, let me put a big plug in for cross-training. All of our production employees are cross-trained in receiving. All of our receiving employees are cross-trained in production. All of our customer care employees are cross-trained in affiliate care and affiliate care with customer care. We bring in sales as well. We make sure our employees are cross-trained. That's that horizontal growth that we were talking about. So we want to make sure that it's not acceptable to tell a customer, sorry, Susie's not here today, I can't help you. We make sure that we have people that are fully staffed and capable to be able to help every customer on every day. And it's good for the employee. They like to be able to know different jobs. And we not only cross-train, we do job rotation. We rotate them in through different functions because we don't want employees just building badges for 6 straight hours and then they're going to have sore wrists and sore forearms and everything. So we try to do a 2-hour rotation. So you're building for a couple of hours, then you go do something else for a couple of hours, then you can come back and build for a couple of hours because we want to rotate. We want to care for these employees and make sure that they're healthy. And then as a Quality State of Texas Award winner and National Baldrige finalist, RDC embraces the culture of assessing employment engagement and satisfaction, employee performance and development, learning, and succession planning. These are all important categories for us. All employees are considered for merit increases annually after the first written review in April and for the end of year bonus after the second written review in October. All right. The purpose of a progressive discipline process is to ensure equitable and consistent discipline for unsatisfactory conduct in the workplace and to assist with correcting the problem, preventing recurrence, and preparing the employee for satisfactory service in the future. So if you look at our progressive discipline policy handout, it's on the back of the 2-month training sheet. So this is just a sample of our progressive discipline handout. And so you're free to adopt that or add any that you want there. Any questions regarding establishing an effective progressive discipline and reward culture? And again, those two things really go hand in hand. If all you do is concentrate on the discipline and there's not a reward to it, you're going to be out of balance. Or if you only concentrate on rewarding your employees and there isn't some discipline, you're going to be out of balance. Those two really need to go hand in hand together. All right, now we get to finally come home to our final discussion today of how to safely terminate an employee with grace, tact, and diplomacy. Ready for this artwork? Only took me 2 tries on this one. All right, it is very important that all terminations be handled directly by the HR manager or their designee to ensure all proper documentation is completed and communicated. If the HR manager is not the payroll manager will need to be notified as well for the final check. That's the only way that you can ensure that everything is treated fairly and legally. So if you don't have an HR person, make yourself the HR person or train somebody to be an HR person that can make sure that everyone is being handled in the right legal way. Terminations can result from retirement, which would be employee choice, resignation, which would be employee choice, or from cause, which would be the employer choice. When terminating an employee for retirement or resignation, be sure to have a written notice from the employee as proof to show the Texas Workforce Commission that should this employee ever file for unemployment insurance. So they may file for unemployment insurance. You need to have proof that they chose to resign or they chose to retire from your company. This is very important as you do not want your account unnecessarily charged for unemployment benefits. If the employee resigned for a good reason, such as a better job opportunity that did not work out or to move out of state with a spouse, they will likely be granted unemployment and your account will likely be charged. Most other reasons for resignation should not charge your account. So do not be surprised. It doesn't mean you did something wrong if your account is being charged. If Susie leaves to go become a manager at another job, and after 6 months that job does not work out and Susie is fired or she is laid off, she has up to 3 years of that work that she did for you to be able to qualify for unemployment. She left for a good reason. She had a better job that she went to. She had no idea that she was not going to work out or going to get laid off from that. So it's not something that if your unemployment is charged, that means you did anything wrong. When terminating an employee for cause, it is always best to use both candor and kindness. Okay? Use both candor. So in other words, candor, being honest. Be honest with them and be kind to them. An employee deserves to understand why he or she was terminated and to receive such notice with gentleness and professionalism rather than anger or tactlessness. It is very important that you use an employee separation clearance checklist to ensure legal compliance. And so you should have a copy of what we use as our employee separation clearance checklist. This makes sure that everyone gets everything that they need. Was it voluntary or involuntary? Have I given them their COBRA notification? Have received any company property that needs to be returned? Make sure that they are paid for any accrued PTO that they have earned. If they are if they have 401k, make sure that we address that and let them know the next steps for their 401k. The address verification. With regards to the address verification, I need to know in early January of the next year their address to make sure I can send them their W-2 form. The exit interview that we're going to be conducting here, and then notify database manager, and then make sure it's terminated in payroll. So for example, for our company, we send out a notice to the employees letting them know that Susie is no longer employee of Radiation Detection Company, and we wish her well. The reason for that is we have keyed in cards to be able to get entrance. We want to make sure our employees are safe. And so when we started seeing some of this workplace violence issues that were going around across the nation, we decided to move to a card. And so everyone has an employee card to be able to come in, and that card is taken away when they're gone. And we want to make sure that our employees know that Susie can't just get buzzed in. And our employees are told, you don't let anyone in without a card. You need to get a supervisor, but we still know employees are employees. And if no one's looking, they're going to let Susie in through the back door. So we need to make sure they know that Susie is no longer an employee here at Radiation Detection Company. And that's all we tell them. We don't tell them why Susie left or how she left or what standing she left, because that's none of their business. And that's only going to get us in trouble if we're telling people that kind of information. All they need to know is that Susie left, and that's the end of the discussion. If they want to go talk to Susie, they can go talk to Susie, but we don't give out any of that information because that's her personal private reason for leaving. Same thing when they give notice. That's up to them. They can declare, they give us at least 2 weeks notice to be in a rehirable status, but we don't then go around telling and announcing to everyone that Susie's given notice. That's up to them. That's their personal journey. Some people want to go out with fireworks and want to have a big party. Other people want to go out very quietly because they are just intimidated by that kind of moment and the motion that goes with that. So we want to be very respectful and let Susie decide how she wants to go out. All right. So the final paycheck needs to be delivered. In Texas, if an employee is laid off, discharged, fired, or otherwise involuntarily separated from employment, the final pay is due within 6 calendar days of discharge. If the employee quits, retires, resigns, or otherwise leaves employment voluntarily, the final pay is due on the next regularly scheduled payday following the effective date of resignation. I went out there to one of the sites, copied that, and it'll be in my notes. The last steps include a final interview with the HR manager where all the checklist items mentioned above are discussed, and the employee is encouraged to share any joys or concerns regarding their employment. These should be noted in writing. The database manager needs to be notified to remove the employee from computer access. An employee memo needs to be sent so employees know of any access restriction requirements, and the payroll manager needs to terminate the employee in payroll. So the people who need to know need to know. Any questions regarding terminating an employee with grace, tact, and diplomacy? All right, well, thank you very much for your time and attention. RDC is honored to work with our community members. Feel free to reach out to Amber Chow if she can be of any help to any of you. Thank you. Yes.
And so if you can't do it well, don't do it at all.
Right.
What exactly are you saying? Like, what would you consider a poor review process for your like?
A poor review process would be where the employees are not being developed, they're being more judged, and they're being more graded, and they're told how lousy they are. It's an imbalanced. So with any kind of review, you want to give them the good and the areas that need for improvement. You don't want to have it. So a lot of reviews focusing on just the negative. And so you got this employee that feels pretty good about themselves, and you even think they're a positive employee. But when they sit down, the 2 or 3 things they hear is you're not doing this, that, or the other thing. and they walk out of there feeling shamed and feeling like, wow, I guess I'm not a very valuable employee. And you're thinking, but I gave you a 47 out of 50, but they heard these three things. So they need to make sure that they walk out recognizing that here are the things you're doing really, really well. Here are a couple things that we want you to be able to improve upon for that. So that overemphasis on the negative could do that, or favoritism, where you have these employees are all getting the highest grades because they've been here for 10 years. And if you're a new hire, you're going to be getting a 30 and everyone else is getting like a 70. Well, I'm sorry, but a good new hire should not have a huge gap. I understand there's some room for growth over a period or two, but it shouldn't be a huge chasm on there. So a lot of times the reviews just destroy the new hires in there and just tell them all the things that they can't do right. A lot of it is the way it's communicated, making sure that the supervisor. So part of our review process is we have a select menu on statements that could be made, because we don't want, that's where you get in a lot of troubles when you write something out and it becomes a target word for somebody and just flashes and then they get upset about that. So we make sure, and then making sure that it's two-way, because in a lot of reviews, they'll just sit down and then they sit there for 15 minutes and they're told everything. And then they get up and they leave. And the person giving the review goes, wow, that was great. I gave a great review. They didn't say anything. No, that's a terrible review. If you sit down for 15 or 20 minutes and it's all you talking and them not talking at all, that is a terrible review. You want to make sure that there's exchange going back and forth and that they're receiving and understanding, and they have the opportunity to talk about what's bothering them or what they are excited about and where they want to move and go in the future.